Elections have consequences. He chose Matt Gaetz.
I barely know Gaetz. All I know is he likes picking fights on social media.
Matt Gaetz's nomination alone is likely to bring chaos to the Department of Justice.
He was not in anybody's top 5, 10, or even 50 list of the folks who I was speaking to.
Lawmakers from both sides of the aisle reacting to President-elect Donald Trump's pick for Attorney General, former Florida Representative Matt Gaetz. Thank you so much for joining me here on Local News Live. I'm Deborah Alfarone. A House Ethics Committee has been investigating Gaetz on allegations of sexual misconduct and drug use, and they were set to vote on whether or not to release their findings, but after being picked to lead the DOJ, Gaetz resigned the House, effectively ending that investigation. So let's talk to Local News Live senior national correspondent Peter Zampa, who's joining us now. So where does this investigation, where does that report, where does all of this stand now, Peter?
Yeah, well, Deborah, there are reports out there that the House Ethics Committee was planning on releasing this thing later this week, which could have had bad information in there for Matt Gaetz. So by resigning, yes, he's no longer under their purview, but theoretically, this committee could still move to release these findings. And you heard some of these senators who might be questioning him during a confirmation hearing saying, look, either way, we want to know what is in that report. It matters to us as people who are supposed to advise and consent on matters of nominations. So we could still find out this information regardless of Matt Gaetz being in the House of Representatives or not.
You know, Peter, President-elect Trump is making these picks at a rapid-fire pace, and some say that they demonstrate his basically prizing loyalty above everything else. Kind of walk us through a couple of them.
Deborah, that is clearly right. Think about two people that he took out of the equation pretty quickly. Mike Pompeo, Nikki Haley, two people who had comments about him after January 6, 2021. A lot of folks are calling it the January 7th test. What were you saying in the immediate aftermath of the Capitol riots? Were you sticking by Donald Trump or were you criticizing him? Well, the folks he is installing in these really high-profile positions, theoretically nominating him, we should say, are people who have stuck by him, and there's no better example than Matt Gaetz. He's a top attack dog on Capitol Hill. He's someone who has gone to the mat for Donald Trump time and again, so it's clear he is showing those rewards to people who stuck by him.
You know, we're talking about Tulsi Gabbard as well. How likely are these picks to be confirmed by the Senate?
Well, Tulsi Gabbard is one conversation. Matt Gaetz is another. Both of them fairly controversial, especially the positions they've been tapped for. Gabbard, DNI, Gaetz, DOJ. Do they have the credentials for those positions? That's one question. But do they have the demeanor for those positions? Do they have a background that's too controversial to actually put them in those positions of power? Now, the Senate is not as polarized as the House of Representatives. They're in there for 6 years. They usually have pretty cordial relationships, so you don't really get as many fringe players. So you could see some people during these confirmation hearings ask serious questions and really call into question whether they are fit for these jobs. And remember, you need 51 votes. The margins are slim. No Democrats are likely to vote for either of them. So will all Republicans stick together on these? We'll see.
One last thing for you. President-elect Trump has expressed the need for these so-called recess appointments. What is a recess appointment? Explain that for our viewers, and why is he pushing for this?
Well, Deborah, it's effectively a workaround for what I was just saying. It avoids having to go through the rigorous confirmation process where you can dredge up the past of either a Tulsi Gabbard or a Matt Gaetz and go into their criminal investigations or ethics reports. The recess appointments means if the Senate is on recess for an extended period of time, the president can basically shove through whoever he wants to join his cabinet. And now there are conversations ongoing about the senators willingly stepping aside, the Republicans adjourning the U.S. Senate so he can do this. And this is to try to get some of those controversial picks through who may not survive a Senate confirmation hearing. Someone like Marco Rubio or Elise Stefanik, they probably have a pretty good shot of passing through that process. But others, like Pete Hegseth, the pick for DOD or Gaetz or Gabbard, that's going to be a tougher slog.
Thank you so much for breaking this all down for us. Peter Zampa joining us from New York. Appreciate it. Well, after